Well, hello and welcome to another Flesh and Blood Ultimate Pit Fight. In this episode we have a lonesome Kayo against an all-female squad of heroes. So let's find out if he can crush those puny girls or if girl power is gonna win the day. And let's meet the combatants. As I said earlier, we have Stanislav on Kayo, but not the good one, it's the gambling addict one that likes to roll dice. We have Tomislav on Azalea, Stanislav on Ira, and I'll be playing Kassai, the newer one. And with the introductions out of the way, let's get this pit fight started. And it looks like Azalea has the first move. Tomislav pitches a yellow card to pay a resource for Dead Dealer's effect, leaving him with one floating. And he puts a yellow Spire Sniping in his arsenal face up, which allows him to look at the top two cards of his deck and put them back in any order. And with his floating resource, he pays 1 to attack Kayo with Spire Sniping, threatening 4 damage. And Stanislav blocks 6 with 2 cards from his hand. Tomislav breaks the combat chain and plays Memory on ground, putting Spire Sniping on top of his deck. He puts a card in his arsenal and ends his turn. Passing it over to Stanislav. He pitches a blue card, paying 2 for Wound Ride, leaving him with 1 floating, and he attacks Ira with it with 6 attack power. And with its effect, he draws a card and discards a random card from his hand. And the discarded card doesn't have 6 or more attacks, so it won't get go again. And with Kayo's hero ability, he rolls a die, it lands on 4, so his attack's power is halved down to 3. And Stanislav decides not to block, so he takes 3 damage. And at the end of his turn, Stanislav puts a card in the arsenal and passes the turn over to Ira. Stanislav pitches a blue card and pays 1 resource to attack me with Harmonized Kodachi, leaving him with 2 floating. I decide not to block and take 1 damage. He breaks the chain and pays another resource to attack Stanislav, this time with the other Kodachi. And because of Ira's ability, it gains +1 attack power, so it attacks for 2. Stanislav blocks 2 damage with 2 of his equipments. But since they have Battle Worn, they are not destroyed. Stanislav breaks the chain again and pays 1 for a life, attacking me with 4 attack power. And since he has less life than his opponents, it gains go again. I block 2 damage with a card from my hand and 1 more with one of my equipments. I take 1 damage, and since life for a life hit, Stanislav gains 1 life. He attacks me again with Soul Beat Strike with 4 attack power, and I take on 4 damage. And since Soul Beat Strike hit, it gains go again. Stanislav breaks the chain and attacks Kayo with Snatch with 4 attack power. Stanislav blocks with a card from his hand and his shield for 4 defense, so Snatch doesn't hit and Stanislav doesn't draw a card. And with no cards left to put in his arsenal, Stanislav just passes turn to me. I play a Gorganian Tome to draw a card. And since I drew a card because of Kassai's hero ability, my sword attacks cost 1 resource less now. I pitch a yellow card to pay 1 resource for commanding performance, leaving me with 1 floating. And my next warrior attack gains +3 attack power. And I attack Tomislav with Hot Streak with 5 attack power. Tomislav decides not to block, and in the reaction step I play Cut the Deck, giving +2 attack power to Hot Streak, making it 7 attack power. So Tomislav takes 7 damage. And with nothing else to do, I pass the turn over to Tomislav. He plays Laced with Inertia, giving his next arrow attack +3 attack power. And he attacks me with Bolton Shot from his arsenal, with 7 attack power. And since its attack is greater than its base, it gains go again. I block the 7 damage with 3 cards from my hand. Tomislav uses Dead Dealer's effect, pitching a yellow card to pay 1 resource, leaving him with 1 floating, to put Spire Sniping face up into his arsenal. And with its effect, he looks at the top 2 cards of his deck and puts them back in any order. He plays another Lace with Inertia and uses Azalea's hero ability. He puts Spire Sniping at the bottom of his deck and the top card of his deck face up in his arsenal. And it's Sleep Dart, an arrow attack, so it gets Dominate. And he pays 1 resource to attack Stanislav with it with 8 attack power. Stanislav blocks with 1 card from his hand and 1 of his equipments, blocking 5 damage and taking 3. And since Sleep Dart hit, Stanislav gets an Inertia token, and he can't use his hero ability the next turn. Tomislav puts a card in his arsenal and passes the turn over to Stanislav. Stanislav plays a Smashback Ailhorn, creating a Might and Agility token. He plays Bare Fangs from his arsenal, pitching a blue card to pay 2 resources and leaving him with 1 floating. With Bare Fangs' effect, he draws a card and discards a random card, and it's a card with 6 or more attack power, so Bare Fangs gets +2 attack power. And just to see what would happen, he rolls a die for Kayo's ability, and it lands on 6, so normally it would attack with 14 attack power, but because of Sleep Dart, he attacks Ira with only 8 attack power. Stanislav blocks 5 damage with 2 cards from his hand and he takes 3 damage. And with nothing else to do, Stanislav ends his turn and passes it over to Stanislav. Stanislav attacks Stanislav with Stone Beat Strike with 4 attack power. Stanislav chooses not to block and takes 4 damage. And since it hits, Stone Beat Strike gains go again. But Stanislav just puts a card in his arsenal and ends his turn, passing it over to me. I destroy my Flat Trackers and Vigor Guard to create an Agility and Vigor token. And I pitch a card to pay 1 resource to attack Tomislav with Hot Streak with 2 attack power. He chooses not to block and takes 2 damage. And I end my turn and pass it over to Tomislav. He plays Seek and Destroy, giving plus 3 attack power to his next arrow attack. And he attacks me with Bolton Shot with 7 attack power. And go again. I block the 7 damage with 2 cards from my hand and 1 of my equipment. Tomislav breaks the chain and uses Death Dealer's effect, pitching a yellow card to pay 1 resource. And he puts Searing Shot face up in his arsenal. He then plays Knock the Death Whistle to search for an arrow card and put it at the top of his deck. And with Azalea's ability, he puts Searing Shot at the bottom of his deck, and the card he searched face up in his arsenal. And the card he searched for was Remorseless, and it gains Dominate. And since it was put face up in the arsenal, defense reactions cannot be played in response to Remorseless's attack. He also plays Scout the Periphery, looking the top card of his deck and giving plus 3 attack power to his next arsenal attack. And he attacks me with Remorseless with 8 attack power. I choose not to block and take 8 damage. And because of Remorseless's effect, each time I play an action card next turn I lose a life. And that ends Tomislav's turn, so it's off to Stanislav. And at the start of his turn his agility and might tokens are destroyed. He destroys Barkborn's trappings to roll a die. It lands on 5, so he gains 2 resources. He plays Bad Beats, which makes him roll a die, and if it lands on 5 or 6, his next brute attack gets plus 5 attack power. But it lands on 2, so it ain't gonna happen. He pays 2 resources and attacks Stanislav with Bonebreaker with 4 attack power. Stanislav doesn't block, but in the reaction step, he plays the defense reaction Fate Foreseen, blocking 4 damage and opting 1 card from his deck, and he leaves it on top of his deck. And since he has go again, Stanislav pitches a card to play Savage Swing, paying 1 resource. He uses Kayo's ability and he rolls a 6, so Savage Swing's attack is doubled, and it also gets plus 1 attack power from Skull Crushers, so it attacks Stanislav with 13 attack power, and Stanislav blocks 10 damage with 3 cards from his hand and 1 of his equipment. And Stanislav ends his turn and it's off to Stanislav, who just passes his turn because he has no cards in hand to do anything with. So it's my turn now. At the start of my turn my agility and vigor tokens are destroyed, so I have 1 resource floating. I pitch a blue card and pay 3 resources and 1 life to play Draw Swords, giving plus 3 attack power to my next warrior attack. And I also draw a card, which triggers Kassai's hero ability, making all my sword attacks cost 1 resource less. And I use Kassai's other hero ability, banishing 2 red and 2 yellow cards from my graveyard, so the next time my sword attack hits I get a gong token. I attack Stanislav with Hot Streak with 5 attack power. Stanislav passes on defense. In the reaction step I play Blade Runner, paying 1 resource for it. It gives my weapon attack go again, which it already had, and my next weapon attack gains plus 3 attack power. And in his reaction step Stanislav uses Fling Kick, blocking 4 damage and taking 1 damage. I get a gong token, and I attack Stanislav again with Centauri Saber with 5 attack power. Stanislav doesn't block and takes 5 damage. And I end my turn and pass it over to Tomislav. He uses Death Dealer's effect, pitching a yellow card and paying 1 resource to put Bolton Shot face up in the arsenal. He plays Read the Glide Path to give his next arrow attack plus 3 attack power. And he attacks Stanislav with Bolton Shot with 6 attack power. Stanislav blocks 3 damage with a card from his hand and he takes 3 damage. And since Bolton Shot hit, Tomislav gets to reload. He attacks Stanislav again with Ravenous Rabble, revealing the top card from his deck, and it's red so it has 4 attack power. Stanislav doesn't block and takes 4 damage. He uses Azalea's hero ability to put a card in his arsenal on the bottom of his deck and putting the top card of his deck face up in his arsenal. And it's an arrow card so it gets Dominate. And he pays 1 resource to attack Stanislav with Infecting Shot, with 5 attack power. Stanislav blocks 2 damage with his equipment and he takes 3 damage. And also a Bloodrod Pox token. Stanislav plays another Bad Beats, and he rolls a 3, so no attack bonus for him. He pitches a card to pay 2 for Bare Fangs. He draws a card and discards a random card, and it has 7 or more attack power, so Bare Fangs gets plus 2 attack power. And with Kayo's hero ability, he rolls a 2, so Bare Fangs attacks with 5 attack power, and it's going straight for Tomislav, who doesn't block and takes 5 damage. And since Stanislav can't pay the 2 resources for Bloodgrowth Poke's token, he takes 2 damage and is eliminated from the game. And it's off to Stanislav. He pitches a blue card and pays 1 resource to attack me with Harmonized Kodachi. I don't block and take the 1 damage. He pays another resource to attack me with the other Kodachi with 2 attack power. I decide not to block, and in the reaction step, Stanislav plays Razor's Edge from his arsenal, giving plus 3 attack power to Kodachi. So I take 5 damage and I'm eliminated from the game. Next, Stanislav plays Sigil of Soulless, gaining back 3 life. And he puts a card in the arsenal and it's off to Tomislav. He uses Dead Dealer's effect, pitching a yellow card, and putting another Bolton Shot face up in his arsenal. He plays Scout the Periphery, and lays with Blood Rot, and attacks Stanislav with Bolton Shot with 9 attack power. Stanislav blocks 2 damage with his head equipment, and in the reaction step he uses 2 defense reaction for another 8 defense, and one of them is Fate Foreseen, so he opts a card and puts it on the bottom of the deck. Tomislav breaks the chain and activates Bullseye's Bracer to put Fatigue Shot face up in his arsenal. He also uses his Talismanic Lens to opt the top 2 cards of his deck. He puts 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom of his deck, and he pays 1 resource to attack Stanislav with Fatigue Shot with 6 attack power. Stanislav doesn't block and takes 6 damage. And Tomislav ends his turn and it's off to Stanislav. And because of Fatigue Shot, the base attack of his first attack action card the next turn is halved. He pitches a blue card and pays 1 resource to attack with Harmonized Kodachi with 1 attack power. Tomislav blocks it with his Trench of Sunken Treasure, and Stanislav attacks him with his other Kodachi with 2 attack power. Tomislav doesn't block, so he takes 2 damage, and Stanislav pitches another card and pays 2 resources for Flying Kick, and since it is Channeling 3 or higher, it attacks with 7 attack power. Tomislav blocks 4 damage with 2 cards from his hand and he takes 3 damage. Stanislav ends his turn and is off to Tomislav. He uses Dead Dealer's effect, pitching a yellow card and paying 1 resource to put Infecting Shot face up in his arsenal. And he's risking it all by using Azalea's effect. He puts Infecting Shot at the bottom of his deck and the top card of his deck in his arsenal, but it's not an arrow attack, so Tomislav just passes turn, and it's off to Stanislav. Stanislav pitches a blue card and pays 1 resource to attack Tomislav with Harmonizing Kodachi with 1 attack power. Tomislav blocks with a card from his hand, and Stanislav pays another resource to attack him with his other Kodachi with 2 attack power, which Tomislav also blocks with a card from his hand. He attacks him with Scar for a Scar with 4 attack power, which Tomislav blocks with 2 cards from his hand, and in attack reaction, Stanislav uses Snapdragon Scalers to give his attack action go again, and attacks with Snatch for game. Since Tomislav has nothing to block with, he is eliminated from the game. And Ira is the winner of this gender imbalance game. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!